discussing that. Other than that, if any one of you is having any query, any doubts, maybe we can discuss that as well. Okay. And meanwhile, what I just found is the reason why we connected with GitHub is again arrived. It's 3.4 GB of disk space has already been captured. So we'll try to push few of our repository which are consuming much space over here, so we can at least get the empty space for our next development that we are going to perform today.
And Sumit,
Mhm.
here we will perform like Postman also, like because we told on like last class or last.
I can show you on the Postman, not an issue. So ultimately, the Postman and HTTP clients are same. So mostly what,
Yeah, we are
right?
doing with HTTP, right?
We are doing with HTTP client, the same REST client we can also perform onto the Postman. We'll do it. I mean, the next service that we create will consume it onto the Postman. That's not an issue.
Okay.
So I'll just simply say, okay, what are those things? Let me just, okay. So it might be a kind of a revision for you guys because we have anyway used GitHub earlier and we are trying to push few projects because I see my dev space is now becoming a bit overloaded. Okay, so I'll just try pushing few things. So for example, let me just say, hmm, which was it? Okay, one second. Okay, just give me a minute, guys. GitHub. We have okay, BTP CAP is there. Okay, I'll just simply say okay, BTP BE auth. Okay, we'll anyway just create a repository. Okay, this BTP BE auth. Let's just try pushing that. Oh, I opened the wrong folder. I'll just go in the branch, sorry, remote. I'll add a remote over here, which is this repository, and maybe I'll just give the branch name main, and I'll just rebase my branch with that. Okay, so I'll just say branch rebase with main. I just got this as a conflict. I'll accept the incoming one, save this, and just say plus. Okay, and I'll just continue to this and publish the branch. And I'll just open the folder of my project so that I can just get rid of that. And meanwhile, I should have my code available over here. Yeah, here is, I see that. Okay, I'll just right click and delete this folder. I don't need any longer. Okay, we'll push one more so at least we have a bit of a space that we can utilize going forward. Then we'll start understanding the topic. So we can say BTP BE Azure. Okay, let's just go over here. Repo new BTP BE Azure. Do we have one? Do we have our Azure repo connected with something already? Azure is already there, right? So let's just do this. Let's just try say the recent changes. I'll just say okay, sync, okay, and right click and delete because the things are available over here in my Azure. Okay, maybe we pushed in different branch. I'll just simply pull it in the main. And the last one, BTP BOP. Okay, so I have BTP BOP. I'll just get this open folder. Okay, user project, BTP BOP, and here I'll go. Okay, here we have to initialize the repo. Initialize the repo plus push to get. Okay, I'll commit this, add a remote at the branch, give the name main, branch, rebase, main. I'll just go over here, resolve the conflict by accepting the one which I want, plus close, continue, and publish. Go over here, refresh, done. Okay, now let's just get rid of that folder. So I think we have the things pretty clean now. Okay, and let's just say the situation right now. Many a time I have also seen the moment you clean it up, immediately it might not start showing that space. Yeah, but now it does. So in case that happens with you, what you'll do is you'll just simply stop and restart the dev space. So it will automatically calculate the empty space. So now I see that almost 3 GB of data, almost 2 GB of data I already pushed. So I have enough space now on my BS to work on my development. Okay, perfect. So now, next thing that we are going to understand. Okay, so today the things that we are planning for is something that will connect most of the dots that we have, let's just say, available. So let's just talk about that. So if I say I have a CAP project, I have, let's just say, n number of entities over here. I'll just simply a number of entity, for example, entity one. Let me just call it as some sort of assessment. Okay. And let's just say I have my entity two over here, right? And as a part of doing an assessment, certain observations are being noted. Okay, so I can say it entity two. Now, whenever you are working on any of the business object, whenever you are working on any of the business use case, right? What happens is there will be some assessment that you would be doing. In that assessment, if I consider as one of your, let's just say, some sort of your parent entity, right? It can have some sort of a things that it will be associated to. I can say some sort of a child entity, correct? So there can be some parent and child relationship or child and parent relationship, some sort of I can say association or composition relationship between multiple kind of a data. Okay, so theoretically we know that, okay, if I say I'm creating an assessment, it can have a number of observation. But how, while developing a data model, we can define the relationship between the entity. So my system, so my data model also mimic that particular relationship, and the same relationship start getting visible on my application as well. So those things, how we can do that. So for that, we have something called association and composition. Okay, that's something that we'll see today. That how I can link multiple entity which are linked with one another by the means of a relationship, call it just as some sort of a one-to-one or one-to-many. Okay, so how that can be done, that's something we'll see. Now, while we are doing that, the idea is that there can be some parent and there can be some child. So that parent and child relationship ideally depend on the kind of data model that you do have. Okay, so many a time I have a data model where I have one parent, one child. So parent is anyway going to be one, but there can be multiple childs out of it. So depending on your application's use case, you can define n number of association with it. Okay, so let's just try to see this practically how those things are going to be mimicked. Other than that, the another thing that we have planned, let's just say the one which we are going to also see today is that when I have such a relationship, I can also expect that my final application will also mimic that relationship. Correct. It means I can have some, for example, some sort of a list over here, and out of which, for example, I can have some sort of a, let's just say, record. So, for example, I have one record over here, another record over here, another record over here. So, for example, if someone is trying to open this particular record from here, saying, "Hey, I would like to open this particular record," the moment someone clicks on that, a detail page will be open. Sorry, a detail page will be open for that, right? And in that particular detail page, I can expect that there will be both the kind of information. At some point in time, there will be some, let's just say, a header data which will be visible for assessment. There will be some table as well which will be visible, which will show some sort of observations. So multiple entity level information should also be visible over here at the same point in time for a single business object, for a single record, because that particular thing is practically possible, and it's the most common scenario in any business object, right? That in a single data object I can have n number of information persisted. So how that can be done, how we can, once after a relationship has been established, how we can create our UI using which our information will be shown on this, in this format. Plus, not only in this preview mode, right? Once after we have seen that, idea is how we can ensure that this particular application which is created by consuming let's just say backend cap OData service can be deployed, published onto my cloud foundry, and how I can view, or I can say how I can make it available for my end user to be used as a tile. That's something we'll also see today. Okay, so let's just go step by step so we understand the data model technicality, then we'll go into the designing part of it. Okay, so let's just go over here, and here we'll create one more project. So for example, I'll say simply CDS init, and maybe let's just say we are going to create some sort of a full stack project. So let's just say BTP full stack project. Okay, let's just clear this out, and maybe let's just start working on the one which are on which we are currently focused on. Hmm. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll simply create a like a data model like we always used to have. I'll just simply open a terminal for just for you to understand that whenever you are working on any sort of a let's just say data model which contains some sort of a association composition, do not worry if you are, let's just say, making any mistakes syntactically, because your CDS watch ideally keeps pointing you, okay, if there is something that you are doing wrong. Okay, I'll tell you what. So for example, I'll just say I'll create a data model, right? And I would like to create this relationship that we just mentioned. That there can be an entity called assessment, there can be an entity called, let's just say, observations. So in an assessment, for example, I'm doing an assessment for, let's just say, car. Then the quality check person might have come up with a multiple observation saying, hey, this particular headlight could have been in this direction, let's just say in this shape. There can be some more things from a quality perspective that he might observe and maybe would be doing in his observations, let's just say, list. So that could be there. So we want a relationship where a single assessment can have n number of observations maintained. But if you think about the reverse way, and single observation over here can only be associated with one of the assessment. If there is some other observation, it might be relevant to some other observation. It means if I think about a relationship, okay, from my if I think about a relationship from my assessment to let's just say some sort of a observation, then I can think that a single assessment can have n number of observation. Can have n number of observation. It means there can be let's just say some sort of a one-to-many relationship. But when I think about a scenario where I can have one observation, definitely that observation will be linked to only one assessment at a time. It means a observation has one assessment to which it is linked to. So I can say it's nothing but some sort of a one-to-one relationship it can have. So we are just trying to think about a hypothetical scenario using which we can mimic one-to-many, one-to-one relationship. Those are possible. Okay. And I can say when I say one, just think about it's like 2 1. On the left hand side, we are thinking about a one, but it can be a 0 to 1. Okay. I'll just go over here and I'll try creating a data model. I'll just give it a namespace. So for example, I'll just simply say btp.fs. For example, let me say I'll just use certain aspects as well, because as we are going to create a record and data via our I can say a Fury application as well. We'll see okay whether my user and everything is being captured correctly. I'll just say entity, and as we are talking about assessment, I'll just say okay, and here maybe I'll add few more things. So for example, the assessment can have some description. Okay, and here I'll just simply say this description will be of 255 character. There can be some start date. Okay, there can be some start date to it. I'll just simply say date, and there can be some end date to it as well. I just simply say date over here. Okay, so I created an assessment, and I'll just simply say that its ID should be created by generated ID, and I want who created and when the data is going to get changed. I want those information as well. So I created one entity called assessment. I'll create one more entity over here called observations. Okay, and here maybe we'll again add the information whatever we want. If you don't want to store when it was created and changed, you can get rid of that as well. If there are some observation, uh, I'll just simply say, for example, it's what is the purpose of it, why, what is that particular observation, and maybe let's just say if there are some observation, I'll just say whether that's a critical. So I'll just say whether that's a critical observation that needs to be fixed. I'll just simply add one more field over here of type Boolean, for example. If someone says critical, it means that needs to be fixed. So I'm just thinking about hypothetical business scenarios. Okay. Now you have defined two entity. It does not have relationship between any of between each other. Correct. Now, what I would like to have over here is that if I say I would like to have some sort of a assessment, first what I'll first create an assessment, right? Because once I have created an assessment object, once I have click on a create button over here, the basic information which I'll enter over here will be of the header data, not the child item, correct? So first I'll create a assessment information. Once that has been entered, then definitely observation is something that is going to get created. It means without an existence of an assessment, it's not possible for my observation to exist. Okay. In such a scenario, ideally what we go ahead with is called composition. Okay. So I can say there are different way of creating a relationship between entity. A relationship between entity. Okay. And a relationship between entity can be either a strict or it can be a non-strict. That whether this relationship, if I am saying that whether the same sequence should be followed, or it's okay if first child is getting created then parent. Okay, so if that kind of relationship is quite strict, we can call it as a composition. Okay, and there can be certain relationships which are not strict. Okay, so for example, if I am saying I have an assessment, but does it really mean that if I am doing an assessment, I'll have some observation? Not really, right? I mean, I can have some assessment which went through. I don't have any observation. I thought, okay, everything went well. I'll just add a description, start date, end date, and that's it. I'll just complete it. So that's also possible. So something where it does not need for a record to exist in the other entity. If there is a record in the, let's just say its associated entity, then we'll go with an association. Okay, let's just take an example. So for example, if I say I am creating an observation over here, then I'll simply say that my one observation, as I mentioned over here, is linked to one assessment. How we'll write this technically? You will simply say that if I have an observation, I'll just simply say this assessment over here. You can have any name on the left hand side just to make you understand. The moment you do that, it says mismatch this because you added a column. It means you are supposed to add some more information, whether that's a column or a association. I'll just simply say association and you will get options, to one or too many. So I'll say an assessment over here. So an observation can be linked to one assessment. So I'll just say association to one and I'll just simply say assessment. Okay. Now the moment you do that, I won't specify any on condition. I won't specify any on condition, but the moment you specify assessment, what the system will do is system will try creating a column with the name. Okay, over here in this particular entity, what will be the name of it? The name of it will be the name of association underscore underscore the primary key of the above entity, which is nothing but ID in this case. So it will create a column with the name called assessments underscore ID. So there will be a column which will be created called assessments ID, which is going to store the assessment ID of the assessment to which any of the observation is linked to. So in a way, if you see that you are not writing that directly, but system is trying to create a column which will store the relationship, saying, okay, if there is an observation, which assessment it is linked to. Now let's just think other way around. If I say an assessment can have n number of observation, can a observation exist without a, let's just say, can an observation exist without my assessment existence? No, right? So what I'll do is I'll just create an assessment. I'll create a relationship over here. For example, let me call it as a observations. Okay, and here I'll just simply say composition, because it's a strict relationship. Without one entity, without assessment's existence, child cannot exist. So I'll just simply say composition of, I'll just simply say many. Okay, and here what I'll specify is composition of many observation. But which observation? Because here there are thousands of observation. Which observation, which assessment is linked to? Okay, I'll just simply say composition of many observation where, and where condition ideally in join. Where, how do we specify? By using on keyword. So I'll say on, and you will specify observation on the left hand side. So now the observation, now any keyword that you have used on the left hand side is a representation of this entity. Okay, so the moment you specify that, you will ideally be able to use, I can say, find all those properties which are available in the child entity, because it says it's composition of this. It means it's a type, the type of this particular entity is going to be the child entity. That's the reason you see you are getting description is critical, everything, right? But when you are saying that observation does this, I'll say assessment of this should be matching with the current primary key of this. So I'll just simply say $self. When you say $self, it means the current record's unique identity, the ID of it should match with the assessment's ID over here. And that's the reason you are specifying observations.assessment is $self. Okay. Now, what does it mean is that a single assessment can have multiple observation. It will compose all the observation where this particular relationship has been met. Okay. Now, next thing that we are going to go ahead with is we'll just see how this relationship has been exposed when it comes to an OData service. Okay, so I'll just simply try to create a service over here. So for example, I'll just simply say create, and let's just simply try creating a service. So as we are kind of creating a full stack application, let me just call it as a full stack service .cds. Okay, and maybe we'll simply use our btp.fs as bf, for example, and maybe we'll just get it via the data model, and maybe we'll just simply say service, some sort of a full stack service. Okay, and I'll expose this. I'll just simply say I'm exposing an assessment over here as select from my bf.assessment. And at the same point in time, I am also exposing my, let's just say, observations as select from my bf.observations. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll just try opening this particular OData service. Okay, and now the moment I view the metadata, now let's just observe the properties. Okay, so in the assessment, while specifying, what all thing we specified? We specified that it can have this 3 column plus my this aspect will give me an ID, and this aspect will give me 4 more columns. So 3 plus 1 4 plus 4 8, and there is one association as well. Now if I just go over here, not this one, this one, assessment, it will have an ID as a primary key, this 4 property, description, start date, end date, plus my composition or association will get converted into a navigation. Okay, and if the navigation mentioned over here has a relationship called many, okay, it will be created as a collection, because it says that this particular assessment can have many lines associated with it, which are of type observation. Okay, now if I just go over here, what it also mentioned automatically is that on delete cascade, because it's a strict relation, because it is saying that it is a strict relation, you will simply also get that if I am deleting a parent, a child will also get deleted on the cascade manner. Okay, which is also even better. Now if I go over here, it says observation. I have all those property which I specify. On top of it, I have a navigation, plus it has got one more property over here. You see, it says assessments ID. It means that the moment you specified this, right, assessments and association to one, it added one more property without you asking for it, called the assessment ID, which is going to store the relationship of the primary key entity over here. Okay, and this relationship is going to be of type 1. That's the reason you don't see collection over here of the assessment. So it's related to one of that particular one. And you see referential constraint, it says the assessment ID which you see over here is linked to the ID of this particular type which you specify over here. So it's a kind of an join that you ideally specify, join or association, but the syntax over here is bit different, which is kind of in a more human readable form, so that you know what you are writing. That's the only idea behind that. Okay, now when we are talking about association to one, that's fine. When we are talking about let's just say I'll just simply remove this. I can say I'll just shift this so that it's not in between. Okay, now what you specified is I can have an association which can have observations and all. Now there can be certain more thing as well, certain more things as well. So for example, if I'm specifying an assessment, there can be some common observations. Okay, there can be some common observations as well, a master data as well. Okay, so which might also be linked to it. So for example, if I'm saying kind of assessment I am doing, so for example, I am doing an assessment of, let's just say, type, or let's just say category. So assessment category which I am doing over here could be anything. So I'll just simply say string 50. And maybe what I'm thinking about over here is that this particular category can be, let's just say, some sort of a quality check, or let's just say physical strength check, some sort of a regression check. I could be doing anything. Now for that, someone has created, for example, or I can say you have created one master data as well. Okay, so for example, you are saying that whenever I am saying some sort of observation, so I'll just say observation master. Okay, and in this observation master, for example, you are specifying some sort of a data, and you are saying that the category, each particular this particular thing will be having string 50, and there will be some default description to it, saying string 255. It means that if I am saying that I have a uh, assessment application which are being used, definitely it will be used for different purposes. So for example, certain will be used for some sort of let's just say, if the application is being used in automobiles, right, it might be used for some sort of a body part check, body part inspection, body part assessment. Okay, then there can be some common observation if there is any scratch. Okay, if let's just say there is some dent, could be possible. If let's just say the same thing is being used for, let's just say, engine part, then there can be some common observation saying let's just say some sort of a plug missing, or let's just say there is some corrosion, anything. So there can be some master data which someone would have prepared, and you would like to show the common reason, which are the main let's just say observation which any particular person who is performing the inspection should also be doing. Possible, right? So those all the thing you can also link as a let's just say association to the relevant entity. But just to understand, even though for a single assessment there can be multiple entries in my assessment master based on the category, but does that mean that the data in observation master cannot exist even without, let's just say, an assessments creation? No, right? Master data will be created before, right? So what you might do is you will just say observation master over here can be definitely linked to my this particular entity with the relationship let's just say too many, but it won't be a composition because it exists without even existence of my assessment, right? So what you can do is you can simply say it can be associated to many observation master over here. Okay, in a way that observation master's category over here is matching with the category over here. This happen? Okay. Oh, observation master. Okay, yeah, I just missed one thing. On observation master dot category, right? On condition. I just missed the on keyword. So what you are seeing over here is that you are saying an assessment can have a composition as well, which will be created along with this, but it can have observation master which already exists, but I can have an assessment where observation master is already linked to it. So in that case, you will use an association to many because the existence are not dependent. Correct. So if I just now refresh this, okay, I might not see this because my entity is yet to be exposed. So I'll just simply say entity over here, observation master as select from bf dot this one, and let me just call it something which is meaningful when it comes to an entity. I won't say observation master, I'll just say master observations. I'll just close this anyway, refresh this. Now, as you can see, it says observation master over here, which is also of type collection of this. But as you can see, as it's an association, the on delete is not cascaded. It means even though you delete assessment, your master entry are not going to get deleted because they are central. You are saying it's associated, not composed of. Make sense? Now you see the difference between an association and composition. Why I am calling one as a strict and why as a non-strict. Anyone having any doubt on this association and composition concept, when to use it? Because this is something you will definitely use in a data model, whichever you would be preparing. Okay, seems good. Now, let's just move ahead. So what we'll do is, as we have created this, we'll try to view some sort of, let's just say, relationship. So we'll try to, let's just say, give it some sort of a UI behavior to it. So we'll let's just say create a normal LROP, a list report object page kind of a thing. For that, let's just try to enrich this thing. So how will I enrich that? You, we have already done it couple of time, right, in the past. So we'll just proceed with the same direction over here. So we can have n number of such a relationship. We'll just go with two for now. For example, assessment and observation over here. Okay, so I'll just simply say I would like to perform an let's just say designing for my parent, which is nothing but assessment. So I'll just say full stack service dot assessment over here. Okay, I would like to expose, or I can say enrich this um, with some sort of meaning over here. So when I say with, definitely I'm going to specify a property. I'm going to specify the design annotation, a table, field group, facet, and here I'm going to specify the property. So simply, for example, I'll simply say full stack service assessment. I would like to have some sort of a UI thing specified over here, and I'll just simply say I would like to have some column. So I'll just simply say line item, and I'll add few columns over here. So let's just simply say I would like to specify some sort of a description. I would like to specify some sort of start date over here, end date over here. Let's just put the detail of a person who created, because we don't want to overload the data over here too much. So we'll just specify the information of the person who created this. This builds my list report, or I can say table, right? Next thing we would do is when a table has been created, we would like to expose the other thing as well. So let's just say I would also ensure that certain things which are not required are not exposed. So I'll just simply say property level ID over here. I'll just simply say UI, and maybe I'll specify few property, for example, say hidden. I don't want ID to be visible because that's a more technical thing, right? Why would I show it to anyone? For example, I'll just say description, and maybe I'll just simply say title. Uh, Maybe let's just say if I'm doing an assessment, what is the purpose of it? Then I'll just simply say start date, and I'll just simply say start date over here, end date, and I'll just simply say title, and there's an end date over here, and rest properties I think has got a meaningful description already by itself, so we are not going to add it anyway. So when we are doing this, we see, okay, something should have been anyway generated. I'll just go back, and here maybe we'll just do a Fury preview for my assessment application. So I see this particular columns now visible over here, and I see it nicely, let's just say represented here as well. Right, now I cannot, let's just say, see some sort of a create button over here. So how we can do that? We'll see that as well. And maybe we'll also go back and try to enrich some data, some detail part of it. So when I say I'm going to click on detail, some header and the table should also be visible, right? So I'll just simply say I would like to view some sort of details. So for that, I'll create some sort of a field group. I'll just simply say field group over here, and in this field group, we'll give some sort of a qualifier, for example, say basic data. And here maybe we'll add some sort of a data property to it. So we'll add mostly everything that we do have. So I'll just simply say copy, and we'll add few more things which we have not added into the table. So for example, the person who is going to modify it, I'll just say modified by, let's just add it first, and then add modified by, modify it. Okay, now after we did that, we have to ultimately add one more thing called, let's just say, um, facet, so that this particular information is also visible. So I'll just simply say facets, and here maybe we'll connect to the reference facet of it, which is nothing but a field group. So I'll just say field group reference basic data. Now, this becomes, or I can say this, consider the story that we have anyway done in past as well. We have anyway created a list report, we have added this basic data, but how about this table? Now, this table is coming for an observations data which has got its own set of entity. Correct. So what are we currently enriching? We are currently enriching this assessment, right? We are saying full stack service dot assessment. We have to also enrich my observations so that it has got something which will be created in the form of a table, right? So I'll just simply go over here and I'll just simply say annotate, and here I'll annotate my full stack service dot observations. Okay, and I'll add, just simply say with at the rate, and here I'll just add this. Okay, and here this time I'll just create a table for this one, which is nothing but a table which will be visible for my observation. I'm creating it separately, but we have to link it together so that these two things are visible in a single row. Okay, I'll just simply say description and maybe data field, and maybe we'll just simply say is critical, and maybe we'll also keep on adding the purpose, or let's just say person who created, and let's just say when it was created. Okay. Plus, let's just say ID. Definitely, we also don't want it to be visible over here. I'll just simply say description this time, and here maybe I'll just say there is an observation, right? So I'll just name it as an observation. Technical name is same, but the purpose can be different. Okay. And maybe is critical. Okay, and maybe other things are anyway quite available by default. Now, after adding this, we have to add one more facet for this one as well. So for this one, which is nothing but a basic data that we are specifying, let's just add a label over here called basic data. And let's just specify some ID as well to uniquely identify this. So I'll just say ID basic data. And we'll add one more facet for reference. And this time the target for us is the thing that will play an important role. So if you by default say control space, it will show you three things. Whether you would like to add a field group, we already added. Whether you would like to add a line item that's already there, which is nothing but this line item. No, there is something which is for the parent. We want something for the child. So you will just simply say observations over here, because that's a child that for which you just added some annotation. Then you will simply say slash, and then you will see UI line item. There is something I'll add. Okay, so what it will do is it will target this observation annotation created over here, and it found that okay, it has got some line item. Would you like to show that? I'll say yes, and here I'll just simply say observation, and I'll just simply say ID. I'll just say ID observation data. Okay, so now we have seen this, but one thing which was missing, which was a create button. Why was that the case? Because you remember in maybe I guess second or third session we mentioned this sometime that
Draft
any
enable.
exactly, yeah, any OData v4 service needs to have a draft capability in order for the CRUD to work for and that's not for a OData v4 service. Okay, just to remind you, any Fiori element template, okay, won't give you a CRUD create button automatically for a v4 service if it's not a draft enable. But if you are going with, let's just say, any sort of freestyle application, or let's just say if you try triggering a post call onto this entity, you can still do it. Even if it's v4, your create, update, delete are enabled. But your template has been designed in a way that it does not give you, because they are saying if you are going till v4, definitely draft also makes sense for you. Why are you not using the advanced capability that it has got? Okay, that's the idea. But yeah, thanks. I guess it means maybe you guys are trying. So you guys are, let's just say, doing the hands-on of the things that we are covering. So that's good to hear. I'll just say assessment over here. Now we see we have got this purpose and everything. I'll just click on create. As you can see, I can just simply show you this, but the idea is you should also be seeing that the moment you click on create, a ID gets created over here. Right, so this is something which is getting created the moment you click on create, but you thanks to the CUID, and is active entity is false because you are into the draft mode. Now you can add all those information, but I'm more interested in showing you this. If I click on this one, which is nothing but a create over here, you will see I don't have much information, right? Because I never added some sort of information over here. So I'll just close this, and instead I'll just add some object page information for my observation as well. Okay, so I'll just add some sort of a field group to it. Okay, and here I'll just simply say field group, and here I'll add some basic data for this as well, basic data for my observation. I'll just say data field, and here maybe we'll just simply say description we want, and we want one more field call whether this is critical. Okay, and we'll add a facet which will show this. Okay, and here we'll add a reference to it, and we'll just simply say that this basic data FS over here should be visible in the form of some sort of a basic data. Okay, and here maybe we'll simply say ID over here, and maybe we'll simply say, I would like to say ID of my observation basic data. Okay, now let's just say go over here. Click on create. And I have got this information. And if I click on this, I have also got this information. So I'll just say observation. I'll just say there is some sort of a scratch on, let's just say front body. And I'll just simply say, yeah, this is critical, because if someone is paying, let's just say lakhs of rupees, definitely he won't accept this. Okay. As you can see, currently it's anonymous, but the moment we integrate all the authentication and the moment we deploy, you will see the current user ID coming up over here. Purpose of it is, let's just say, um, check for pre-delivery. So if there is a car which is being, let's just say, prepared for delivery, and there is a pre-delivery inspection which is going on, I'll just say I am starting this today, but by tomorrow I have to complete, because by tomorrow I have to deliver that particular car. Okay, and I'll just simply say create. So there is something we can use and easily without any sort of other other complex complex Node.js code. We are able to do this, and we can have some sort of enrichment like we learned into the past. We can also use that. But the focus over here is how the relationship can be used to enter the data into multiple tables, which will ultimately form a basis of an actual business object data. Okay, that's the main idea. That's what currently we are emphasizing on. Okay. So this is how we enrich this. Now, what we'll do is we'll see how this particular thing, which was just, let's just say, application, which we viewed into the preview, can be consumed in a real application. Okay, so that's the direction into which we are now currently going towards. Anyone having any doubts meanwhile till now? Yeah, Ashok, I see maybe you're raising your hand.
Yes, Sumit. Yeah, we we cannot use the 18 entries here because it is since we are sending the label from the OData services. So if I want to see this one into the German language, so can't we use here I-18 entries concept?
We can. I think we
Or
have
we
covered that. You remember?
last class I didn't. Okay.
In not in last class, but there were, I think if I remember that correctly, class number fifth or sixth, where we use I18N. So the you will see it into the section area when we are using @mandatory assert. So and
Yes, yes,
during that
yes, yes.
particular session, we also use an I18N. We specified how I can use a resource.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
are
I
called
remember.
ideally I18N
Yeah, yeah,
resource.
I
And
got it. Yeah, I
okay,
got it. I
so
got it.
okay, so that's
And
possible.
one more thing.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, one more thing is oh, yeah, you are doing the associations, you are doing the dependent is the self, right? So it is automatically create the UID. But if you make a description as a key field, now which field it will take? UID or description field? If
So
you maintain the
as
self,
per,
right?
okay. So the idea is, as per what SAP suggests, you can have this particular CUID as your primary key. There are reasons for that. So for
Yeah.
example, if you don't use a CUID, you might have to create your own entry. Okay, that's something.
Okay.
What you can do is you can definitely create your handler. So you remember we talked about the before handler, right? And
Yes,
what
yes,
we
yes.
specified is the purpose of before handler is to put some sort of a validation, to assign any sort of a number range, to assign some sort of a key before even the
Mm-hmm.
record gets created. That's the main
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
So for example, if I say I would like to have an assessment, the moment someone saves, before even record gets inserted, I'll have some sort of a, let's just say, logic to decide, okay, what is the next key. So for example, I can
Mm-hmm.
have some assessment key getting generated based on my timestamp plus the, let's just say, car number for which I'm doing the inspection, and I'll generate a key for that. Or then
Mm-hmm.
can be some number range. Okay, in this calendar year 2024, I am doing assessment number 1, 2, 3. Likewise, if I would also like to generate such a key. You can do that. So those all
Okay.
the things will fall under the part that we discussed. Let's just say handlers of Node.js handler that we discussed. That's what you can use. In
Okay.
case you would also like to think it from a different direction, from a detailed backend orientation of a S4 HANA, you can also search for a term. I'll just give you a food for thought called HANA database triggers.
Okay.
Okay, you can also go for HDB triggers. What it does is the moment any entry, a new entry is getting inserted into the DB, it will trigger certain or generated procedures, code blocks, and and in that particular trigger, what you can write is before insert. Like maybe if you would have worked on a web site, you know, whenever we generate a table maintenance generator, before even a data is getting inserted, I would like to perform something. So
Yeah.
same way over here, before even a record is getting inserted, I would like to determine its key and save it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you can
Yeah.
write your code logic either in the before handler of a Node.js, or you can write your logic in the HANA database trigger. Okay, and
Okay.
that's where you can get the numbers assigned. Either you can write some sort of algorithmic logic which can be used for the number assignment, or you can, let's just say, use some sort of like we used to have some number range into ABAP. Same way you can use a HANA database sequence. So you can have .hdb sequence as one of your type, and that's something you can connect with your trigger as well as in your Node.js. Both are possible. Okay, so
Okay.
these are kind of things which will definitely come, but the idea is these are bit advanced thing. First, you should be quite comfortable with this thing, and then one more thing: when you read the blog, okay, when you read any standard blog, what you will also figure out is this non-semantic key. What we are currently using over here is the one which SAP started recommending, because they know that whenever I'm showing something to end user, that couldn't be anything, but my database should be quite consistent, and that's the reason it should have a consistent key, and that's the reason they came up with a GUID based key. The one
Okay.
which you are talking about is called semantic keys. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, semantic keys is something which used to be there earlier, but now SAP says that semantic keys should not be used as a DB key. Instead, you use semantic key just for the end user's purpose. So my end user
Okay.
will see that, okay, I am using assessment, my AS01. So tomorrow, let's just say if they want to use in any communication, they won't write saying, okay, cement GUID key XYZ dash something something. They'll be quite complex for anyone to communicate. In that case,
Yes,
semantic
yes.
key will be there, but that won't be a key parameter over here. Okay,
Mhm.
are you getting my point?
Okay. Yeah, 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 I got it.
Okay, thanks. Just give me a moment. I'll plug in the charger. Okay. Okay. So now once we have this, now idea is let's just try to give some sort of a Fiori application. Let's just give a birth to a Fiori application. So that can be used going forward for my, let's just say, end user to interact with. I cannot ask my end user to go ahead and install a BS and do application preview by using a CDS watch or CDS run or creating a run configuration. Bro. That's not how it works. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll try to see how I can consume this one into a Fiori application now. Let's just, before that, let's just do some sort of a groundwork. Let's just try to add some sort of a HANA DB to it, because we know all this while it was working on an in-memory database, right? If you see over here, I see it's quite empty. Package.json is quite empty. It does not have any HANA link to it. It was an in-memory database on which it was working. I'll just say CDS add HANA, npm install HANA database, and I hope my HANA DB instance is also up and running. it is, right? Okay. Npm install, maybe we'll add a SAP HANA client. Okay, and maybe as we are going to connect to Fury, definitely we'll need some sort of a security as well. I'll just install Passport. And the access security, there is something we also learned in a hard way. We and found that, okay, my service is thing, then we added this particular packages, right? So that's the thing that will anyway be required over here. What's happening? There's some robo, it seems. Okay, so after we have done this, now we'll try to generate our components over here because we don't have a generated components. So I'll just, okay, let me just first log in over here because it may not have my login available. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll simply try to prepare my generated components over here. So I'll just say CDS deploy to HANA. Okay, by the time it's deploying a HANA instance, we'll see whenever we are saying we are creating a Fiori application, okay, we are going to deploy it to somewhere, right? That somewhere on the BTP is considered as your HTML5 applications block. I'll just go into my BTP over here. Okay, and you see this HTML5 applications here. Okay, and here what we'll do is we'll just simply say I would like to have multiple options. I'll have multiple options whether you would like to go with SAP Build Work Zone, SAP Success Factor, Cloud Services. So let's just choose one of them. So in your trial, you can choose one of them. I'll just simply say SAP Build Work Zone Standard Edition. I'll just click on this and it will subscribe me for that. So it will navigate me to the service marketplace where it may search for that one and then say SAP Build Works on that's something you would like to subscribe for. I'll just say yes, create this. Okay, and I'll just simply select, let's just say my standard plan. So I'll just subscribe for that. Okay, so I can create a number of application on top of it. Okay, and I'll just view my subscription over here. Okay, it's being processed. At the same point in time, if I just go into the users, if I am saying I have got one more tool, there should be some user who is responsible for managing that. There should be someone who are authorized to do that, right? So I'll just simply say assign role collection. And you see the moment we added a launchpad, we got few more things. Launchpad admin, launchpad advanced theming, launchpad external user, right? So I'll just simply add this. Maybe there is something that I have removed earlier because we were not looking for it. I'll just add that anyway. But the launchpad relevant one are quite important for you to work with your new offering that you just subscribe for, okay, which is nothing but your SAP Build Work Zone. Okay, so maybe again is processing it. Maybe in some time it should also be subscribed. Meanwhile, it seems this is okay. Yeah, so this is done. Let's just wait for this to get completed. Maybe for just a minute. Still, it seems it took a bit more seconds than the one expected. Okay, let's just click on this HTML5 application. Now you see the view has got changed because it knows we have some sort of a launchpad available. It says there should be some manage application router provided application which you will be deploying onto this. So whenever you create an application with a managed application router, and you can easily deploy them onto this particular launchpad. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just simply again go back and view what's the status. So now it seems that we have subscribed for that, and going forward, we'll go to the application and we'll see how we can configure those style. But this particular entry gate is open. Now what we can expect, okay, what you can expect is, like, you go in an overview, check the dev space, and you were seeing all those application which you are deploying, right? Your backend application, your DB module, your application router available as an endpoint. Same way your UI application will be available over here. So any UI application that you deploy, you will see those appearing over here in the form of an application. And then you can simply go ahead and view it over here. The moment you have done that, you can easily navigate through it. You can use it as an end user. And for an end user to easily do that, you will create a launchpad. So there is a launchpad, but within the launchpad, you will create a site and you will use it. So how you can do that? That's something we are anyway going to discuss. So before that, let's just go over here. Let's just complete the exercise that we just started. So after we have this, what do we need? We need some sort of a, okay, so we can see some sort of component already getting generated, right? Now we would like to go towards the application generation. There are a couple of steps for that. Okay, what we'll do is we'll just make our application deployment ready. So I'll just add some sort of an MTA for that. So the moment I get an MTA, you will see it has got all this particular. I'll the moment we have got the MTA, we'll see the all those modules which used to be there. I can see those as well right now, right? Now, what you'll do is you'll just simply say right click over here and you will create an MTA module from a template. Now, what the system was requesting over here, it says there should be some managed application router. So we are going to add a managed application router whenever we have a Fiori application linked to it. Whenever we have a normal, just an endpoint backend service, we'll go via a standalone router, app router, the way we did it in the earlier authorization concepts. So I'll just go with app router configuration, go next over here, and it says manage application router, and I'll just give it some name. So for example, we are going with some sort of a UI manage app router. Okay, and it says, do you plan to add a UI to it? I'll just say yes, I do. I'll just simply say next. So what it does is it adds some sort of a configuration to it. So you see it just generated some sort of a UI app router configuration, which has got the authentication mechanism and everything in place. Correct. Plus in the resources, you see it has added multiple things, including your access and authentication. So now my service is quite secure, right? And in the access security JSON, it also check whether the user that you are trying to use is a valid end user or not. Okay, so this is something it just did by itself, just by adding a managed application router. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll try to ultimately add a Fiori application. Okay, now in order for us to do that, what we'll do is we'll simply go ahead and say, I would like to create a Fiori application. I'll just say new file over here, new project from template. And here you will simply search for a Fiori application. I see it over here. Yeah, those of you who are also kind of a pro UI developer can also choose any other type of them. I'll just go by the Fiori element one. I'll just go by the list report page. Go next. And here it will ask you for some sort of a data source. And in this case, the data source that you are going to choose is the one that we do have. Okay, it means you will select a local CAP project. Okay, I'll just maximize the screen. It just figured out there is a OData service available. I'll just say, yeah, go next. It says that main entity over here is assessment, and the navigation property to it, I'll just say observations. It says, do you want to add a column? If you have not added any sort of columns by your own, I'll just say no. I'll do it by my set of annotation. I'll just say next. I have to give some module names. So for example, I'll just say BTP UI, let's just say assessments. I'll just say manage assessment. I'll just copy this and I'll just add the same thing into the description as well. And I mean, you guys are anyway pro in generation of a UI application than mine. I'm just like explaining how you can consume a CAP project for that. Okay. So UI version, you all know whichever UI version you would like to go on. I'll just use the latest. I'll go with that. I'll add Fiori Launchpad configuration as well because we are going to deploy it. I'll just say, and it says whether you would like to add the deployment configuration for our UI project into this. I'll just say, yeah, do that. I'll just go next over here. And where we are going to deploy this? Definitely onto the BTP environment, onto the Cloud Foundry runtime. Okay, and destination, I won't select any. And semantic object. So let's just say I would like to have some sort of a assessment. Um, and you can give any action. So I'll just say manage, let's just say CAP. And I'll just give some sort of a title to it. I'll just simply say CAP V4. I'll just say finish. Okay, it's trying to install some sort of a dependency. So let's just wait for that to happen. Okay, so your project is generated. And now we see those project info as well. Okay, I'll just expand this app folder. So you see um, there are a couple of things those just got created. Let this is services.cds. What it is doing is it use the annotation from BTP UI assessment and annotations. If I just expand this, okay, in the web app, and here you see this annotation over here. This is connected to my full stack service. The SRV, whatever full stack service is that, that's something it is trying to connect. Okay, now I'll just go over here and you see all those services. So in the manifest, it would be connected to my OData v4 full stack service. So this is what it is connected to, and it will be able to communicate. It has got all those UI things that you need ideally, or let's just say way your application should be queried and all those application stuff, the pagination, how the routing should be done and everything that you need. Those all the things are over here as well. Okay, those all the things are generated. On top of it, the one which is of our interest is, if you see over here, I'll just the this one access app.json is generated, which is ideally used for your routing purpose. So in this particular case, we'll first try to preview our application, see how it is working, and once it's done, maybe we'll try to enrich this application with few more things. Okay, I'll just simply say clear CDS watch, but as we have, let's just say, got some sort of a HANA and everything in place, I'll just say profile hybrid. Oh, my bad. What did just happen? Throw error profile does not. Oh, my bad. CDS watch profile hybrid. So it has got the HANA DB. Let's just say credential. You see over here. I'll just open this in a new tab. Just close this, and you see this UI application, web application has also got generated over here. I'll click on this, and now it should navigate me to the application. So you have that, and now if you click on create, you will get the real feel of your application. Okay, so this is how it is looking like. You will be using it like the way you used to, let's just say, use any other, let's just say application, but this is just a local run for that. Okay, we'll see how these things can be used the moment we have deployed that. So we'll proceed towards the deployment. Okay, next, I'll just close this for now. Close this over here. Okay, now what we'll do is We'll say we have got all this application and everything. Now let's just observe the MTA YML over here first. Okay. Because earlier when we generated it used to contain very minimal thing, but now it has got many things with it, right? I'll just say it is my Node.js service, this is my HANA database, this is my destination service, which is ultimately going to connect to my different destination. What are things are there? So it says that, okay, it is a destination service which is going to connect to my HTML5 repo. It will have the key of it. It will need the user access and authentication, all those things. The parameters which are specified over here are also few things, which is nothing but your app router information. Then it has got your HTML5 repo, which is nothing but your UI applications, connection, content, application content, and this is the actual data of your UI application that just got generated. Okay, this is the one with which your one UI application is available. Likewise, you can have n number of such applications. There can be one database, and these are the resources which it will need in order for it to work. Now, what we'll do is we'll try to prepare my application for the deployment. There are a few steps for that. First, as I mentioned, any application for it to work, what you will need is on BTP, anything to work, it needs some set of a security. So I'll just simply say @requires, and I'll just simply say any authenticated user should only be able to use that. So I just add it requires an authenticated user. So my service won't be able to use, no one will be able to use my service other than the one who is an authenticated user. Okay. Now, as we do that, my application should also be whitelisting that particular endpoint. Correct. Now, in order for my application to whitelist all those things, how we can, what we are supposed to do. We have anyway done this thing into the past. I'll just go over here in the access app.json, and here this access app.json has been created considering your UI service. It says HTML5 apps repo and everything, right? But when this UI application tries connecting the backend, how that can be validated, right? So if you see over here, my service over here has been named as a something that called full dash stack, because it's a two uppercase, so it is how it converts it into. We are saying that whenever it tries to connect to this, we would like a access UA authentication to get triggered, and then it should be routing my application to the required destination. That's what we would like to call. I'll just go over here and I'll just simply add one more route over here. Okay. And here what we'll do is, like we have multiple things already available. I'll just simply, let's just say, have a source. I'll have some sort of a destination, which I also do have, right? So I'll just simply, okay, let me just start typing rather than, anyway, I won't copy it. I'll just say simply source. So what a source can be. So as I mentioned, it can be a something called, let's just say anything like this. But here I would say that rather than this one, I'll just say this particular service should be whitelisted, which is nothing but this full stack. If any call is coming for this particular full stack service, please allow this. There can be anything after that. I don't mind. Okay, but this full stack service should be whitelisted. That's what you would like to say. So what you will call it as a full stack, anything after that. Okay, so in the round bracket dot star, it's nothing but your regex pattern. Then you will simply say there should be some destination to which I would like you to connect to. Okay, so I'll just say, let's just name it as a FS app API. Okay, and maybe here we'll say any person who is trying to trigger any sort of a create, update, delete call on that should have a valid CSRF token with it. So I'll just say CSRF protection. Okay, and here I'll just simply say it as a true. So I would like my all the create, update, delete call to be secure. And then we'll simply say authentication type over here. In this authentication type, we'll go with a access UAA. So my application is quite secure. So that's all we want. Okay, so we added a source with the endpoint service, and we gave a name to our destination, and we added a CSRF protection and this one. But where this destination is defined, FS app API, all those things should be defined in your MTA YML. Okay, because in your MTA YML, all those things which we are talking about are defined, and the moment they deployed these my deployment artifact, it will create let's just say destination of that particular type. And what that can be? A resource, right? In the resource, you see a destination service which will have a set of destinations. So it has got a destination. We'll create our own set of destination again. One was with the name UI5. I'll add one more. Okay. Now, as we are already doing an authentication over here on my app router level, on the destination level, I won't do the authentication. Okay. Because my system would already have been authenticated. I'll just simply say the name of it. I'll just copy it exactly whatever I have specified over here. Okay. And then I'll say I would be going via internet. The type of it should be HTTP. And there are two more things. The URL will come on to what is the URL that's going to be. Before that, you see, whenever you are going to create a destination on a BTP, if you would be interacting with your basis guy, you would have seen that even if they create any destination for your Fiori application generation to your backend, they add certain properties called HTML5. Okay, it's called HTML5 dynamic destination. Maybe you would also see it over here, I guess, if I just go in destination. I'll just simply say create, and you see new property. If I just say HTML5 dynamic destination, right? This property I'm talking about. This is a property which are ideally required in order for your application to, let's just say, consider this as a destination plus pass the auth tokens. To pass the auth token, there is one more property for that. Okay, so what is that property? So if I just go over here, here you would see HTML5. This forward auth token. There is something we'll also use. Okay, now the URL. So how my URL of my end application will be looking alike. You can give some pattern as well. Ideally, what we should be doing is we should be connected to my application router and the service URL. That's what we ideally do. So what we'll do is we'll just simply give a tilde sign and say we are going to use two variables, SRV API and SRV URL. Now this SRV API and URL, who are the providers for that? So SRV API you see over here is being provided by, and how about SRV URL? Okay, so my SRV URL is the property which is over here, which has been defined by my default URL of my application. So there is something which will be there into the service session data already, but this thing is something which won't be there, right? So we have to ultimately specify it into the resource. So in this resource, in the type, right, afterwards we'll specify simply, I would require a name of short SRV API. The moment you do that, this variable will be recognized. If you don't do that, if you just skip this, during the deployment time, you will get an error. Your build deployment will fail saying your SRV API is an unknown variable. Okay, that's something that you might end up facing. Now, when we are saying my application is something which should be deployment ready, we'll see if someone is trying to connect to my service on the ad hoc basis, whether he or she should be allowed. Not really, right? That should also be authenticated via my access UAA authentication. So you'll see this requires over here head and DB. Same way, it should also have some sort of a UAA over here. So you see a resource of the type UAA. I'll just copy this path and I'll just simply add this over here in the requires section of my service. Okay, so anyone who is trying to reach out to my service, they'll be first routed to my let's just say authentication mechanism. The moment they authenticate themselves, then only this particular thing will be allowed. Okay, so these are the things that we'll do on the multi-target MTA side. Plus, like we see in the package.json, we have got that I have got a requires which says DB and HANA, everything. This needs to be there. At the same point in time, authentication mechanism is something that should also be provided. So I'll just simply go over here and I'll say UAA. And here I'll specify the kind of it, which is nothing but going to be access UAA. Okay, So now once we have done that, mostly we are through. So let's just do a sanity check if just to ensure we have not missed anything. So how the application is going to get deployed? My applications end user is going to connect to my UI. My UI is going to go over here. It will say whether the call is onto my backend application, whether this has got an empty YML. I'll say yes. It has got over here. My service is also secured, and I have also created a destination with that particular name that we want. Okay. Afterwards, I think we have our service over here, which is going to be in my SRV folder. Whether that's secured, yeah, it is also have got an authenticated user. And I think that's all it should have. So now let's just proceed towards the deployment. I'll just simply go over here, go back and just simply say clear. And let's just install all the dependencies first. Okay, and now let's just try to build my empty YML. Now, earlier you remember the backend generation used to generate a Mac file at the same point in time whenever there is a UI project introduced, or I can say involved, right? They'll also create one more zip file for your project, which is your UI project. So you see this generation application BTP UI that happened because we have a UI project associated, and those particular UI project zip file will be placed, as you can see, under resources. So it plays a zip file of your project over here. Okay. Now we have got this, and now we have to deploy this. So what we'll do is we'll just simply say cf deploy mta archive and this particular file. I'll just simply say deploy. It will proceed to with the deployment. Once this deployment is done, along with the service, we should also be able to see a let's just say application available in the HTML5 section. Okay, it's starting. So mostly deployed many of its modules. Now it's maybe the process of starting all of them one by one. Okay, so my service is up and running, it seems. Okay, now this process also got finished. So let's just go over here and try to click on HTML5 application. You see, our application just got created, and if you want, you can just, if you would like to pass it on to somewhere else, you can just download and do that. Else, you can just simply click on this, and you will be able to view your application getting open. It's logging you in. It open manage assessment. You see, it just opened the application, and I can simply go ahead and use it the way we used to do it earlier. I'll just simply click on create. And you see, it just identified my user because we are also we have also added an authentication, so it knows who is the user who is creating and changing all those particular things as well, right? So we'll use this application, we'll create certain records, but after we have created a tile for that. Okay, so now we have application available till BTP. Now this particular way is something which I still cannot ask my user to do, right? Saying these are the technical name, please note it down, and going forward, whenever you want the application, use it by this, you can search in the HTML5 application. That does not look good, right? So I'll just use my this particular SAP build work zone service. Okay, I'll just go over here. And you see, you are getting an option. Okay, I'll just simply first go over here as well, content manager. And I'll just say content explorer to view all the HTML5 applications. I don't see it over here yet. Okay, I'll just go over here. Okay, and you see HTML5 application, it says last it was updated over here. I'll just say refresh, because each time this particular content channels is something that you have to refresh on your own. So any recent application which are available, you will see you will start seeing it then, right? So I'll just refresh this. It's updating the content. It says updated. Now let me just go in the content explorer again. I'll just say content explorer, HTML5 application. Now you see your application is available. I'll just simply click and say add. Okay. Now if I just go over here, content manager, I should also be able to see my application here. Now let me just create a site. I'll just create a site. Let me just say it as a dev site. I'll just simply say create. It opened the site over here, and this is how the URL is going to be. Okay, but as you can see, the URL says something. I'll just show it to you on the browser. It says there is a URL site and site ID this. Won't look good, right? My user will anyway be a bit confused. So what I'll do is I'll just close this, go back, and here I'll simply say manage site alias. So I'll just give my site alias called dev. So whenever someone would like to use that, I'll just pass them this particular URL, go to site. And this now looks like a genuine launchpad, right? So where my end user can easily go ahead and work. So I'll just pass on this URL, and this is the particular URL onto which I'll ultimately add my content. Okay, so I'll just simply go in setting. It says it has got some role. By default, everyone role is something that will be assigned to it. I'll just go back, and here I'll just go into the content manager. It has got this everyone. Okay, I'll just simply create some sort of group over here. So for example, I'll just simply say cap apps, and I'll just say assign, and I'll just save this. Go back. Oh, my bad. I have created a group. I'll just go in everyone, edit. And this particular application was not assigned. I'll just assign this as well. I'll just save it. Go over here, open this. Now you see my tile just started appearing over here. I'll just click on this, and now I have my assessment dash manage cap as the let's just say semantic object and action that I provided, and I have now a valid application up and running, and I'll just simply can click on create, and I can see those things working, right? So I can simply add any sort of assessment. Let's just say pre-delivery check. I'll just say I'll start it today, we'll complete it by tomorrow, and maybe I'll just simply say okay, and I can simply say okay, there is a scratch in front, and I'll just say yeah, it's a critical thing. Click on this and create this. Okay, and I can simply maybe I just click on home rather than back, but I can see those things also appearing over here. And this is the one maybe we created when we were doing the testing. This is on the HANA DB, so that's the reason it just started appearing. I'll just simply delete this as well. 1033. Okay. Now, if you would also like to validate whether this data is also going into HANA Database Explorer, you can also do that. There is the same place where it is also going to. I'll just simply also check one more thing. Okay, the one which we are discussing. I'll just go over here into the network and see whether the system over here. I'll just refresh this to see how my calls are being articulated, right? You see a dollar metadata. Okay, it just found some sort of a metadata over here. So via that particular path, it just also was able to find that particular service metadata and everything. And this is how it is looking like currently. So your assessment is over here, your observations is also over here, and all are available like we used to interact with any other application and the service metadata. Same way you can do it over here as well. And as we are talking all this while, let me just also open the HANA Database Explorer and go over here and overview, and let's just say what did we call it as BTP FS, right? So let's just search for the database module for that. Okay, maybe we might have to find something, but let's see. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we will have some sort of FS. Do you see a DB deployer? Yeah, over here. And the service binding and DB, and I'll just copy all of them, go over here, add this data into the container, apply from a JSON string, and I'll just say this is my HANA database container for my BTP FS project. Just say okay. Okay, and I'll now simply say tables. And you see this particular tables, and we created some record right into this assessment. Open. You see that particular record, the one which we created, is now available over here because this is where it is linked to. So this is how our underlying database is connected, and this is how whenever you are using it from the Fiori, there is the underlying DB that's going to get updated. It's no mystery. The thing is, you should be knowing how the dots are connected. As simple as that. Okay. Anyone having any doubts, any questions?
Yeah, Sumit.
Yeah, Krishna.
Yeah, Sumit, on creating time like Fury. Okay. We have added launchpad configuration like semantic object and everything. Okay. Suppose that we haven't add and we have deployed. Okay. So after deployed, like how we can add like semantic object and everything action for creating this group and
I think that will be in your deployment configuration over here, if I remember that correctly. Wait, I'll just search for this. So there is one file under which it ideally go and set. I'll just manage cap. Yeah. Not this one here in the manifest of yours. You see? So for example, if you have missed that, right? In what you will do is you will ultimately specify those particular actions and everything in your manifest level. So these are ultimately your applications information. You will say assessment, manage cap. There is the name of your application, semantic object and actions. There is a block that you have to add. So I think you are if I understood you correctly, you are a front end developer anyway, you by yourself, right? This maybe
Right.
from your career. So whenever we are creating a Fiori template application, it gives you a certain thing in the manifest, but going forward, let's just say if I'm willing to add some extension, if I'm willing to add some internal pages, or let's just say some embedded component, I have to add it. Same way over here, whenever you're developing, definitely those templates, those radio buttons are just to help you out. But let's just say if you have not passed those, the moment you deploy, post which if I'm doing some change in my manifest, if I redeploy, the same application version will get updated. And in that particular case, you have to add this cross navigation. So this is something which is important, but if you miss, you can just simply add it via in this cross navigation block, where you will specify this is how your application is finally going to look alike. This is your semantic object, this is the one, and these are the things. The moment you specify, that's where it is going to pick it from. Okay.
Okay. So manually we need to add cross navigation, inbounds, everything, right?
Yeah. So tell me one thing. In your let's just say day-to-day life, do you use only freestyle or you also use Fiori elements?
Freestyle, like lot
Okay.
of.
So in a Fiori element, the idea is there are development. So for we have a separate course for Fiori elements as well. But the idea is in Fiori element, what happens is whenever you are developing, there are certain parts of it. Okay, your web app folder over here, you will have in your freestyle as well. Post which in your web app, you will have a manifest which will ideally connect all your data model plus your pages and everything. So here you will have all those things specified. Tomorrow, let's just say if someone is saying, I would like to, for example, in your technical term, I can say someone would like to add some custom view or custom columns. They would like to create a fragment and connect to it. All those linkage will be done via manifest. The moment you have done that, then only your particular those portions will be done. Right? That's how I guess it's also there in the freestyle as well. Correct.
Mhm.
And that's where you also end up modifying that. So these are the things that you can definitely do it over here. Plus, I'm not sure whether this particular BS component has got an open with. No, there is no other editor, but maybe in the web ID, there is one more editor, right? In the configure descriptor editor, I guess, right? And there you will get all those options where in the drop down and everywhere you can also mention, and this particular code block will get created, right?
Okay. And
Yeah, please.
yeah, Sumit, like in in custom UI5, like after deployment, we have created like tile catalog, everything. Okay.
Mhm,
But here we have created only group. Okay.
mhm.
And
You can
we need
create
to
that as well. You have create that as well, but it depends on the kind of grouping you would like to perform. There is a build work zone, so you can say you would like to create a catalog. You can the tile is something that you have created over there. You can simply create in the terms of app. That's what we call it over here. So
yes.
whenever we subscribe, there are four options, right? A cloud portal, build works on standard, and the advanced, and maybe there was one more. So
Mhm.
each particular portal, each particular way of deploying your HTML5 application, each particular launchpad has got its own set of terms, each set of properties. So in the build work zone, group is the one that we ideally use in order for us to combine the application. Okay. So if
Okay.
you would like to also create some catalog and go by that particular semantics, that's something which is also there. And if let's just say if you would like to also create some sort of a role and say this is a particular role I would like to also only view, let's just say quality manager to view this application. I would like some application to also be used by let's just a field person. You can also create some role and assign those roles individually. That's something which is possible. Okay.
Okay, like
That's
PFCG one, right?
exactly, yeah. But the idea is the moment you create this role, you won't assign it onto the PFCG. Rather, you will assign those role where those will start appearing is you will assign those roles over here in the you will go over here in the security. You will see those roles the moment you create appearing over here. The moment those roles start appearing, what you will do is you will say, hey, I am talking about a let's just a person who is going to deploy my person who is going to use my the one assessment inspector. So I'll just go in the role collection and I'll create a collection over here called assessment inspector. Like in the PFCG, what we ideally do, we ideally create a PFCG role which might be containing multiple authorization object with the different kind of activity, whether someone would like to create it, update it, and likewise, right? So same way over here, you
Mhm.
will create a role collection. I can say dummy role collection, and the moment you create, this particular role collection will ultimately allow you adding individual roles to it. Okay, so like we used to add authorization object, same way you will go over here and you will say, hey, I would like to add certain roles to it. So you will simply search for all the roles. So for example, you are adding some sort of you will find application identifier also over here. So for example, the one which you found over here, you will say the user who has this particular role. I'll just add this particular role, and this particular role collection that you found created over here will finally be visible in your role collection that you are going to assign to the respective user who you would like that particular activity, whom you would like that, okay, these are the user who should do that. So the moment you say over here, you will see dummy role collection appearing. So the moment you do that, you will see that once that particular individual user has that role assigned, they'll be able to see that tile. So this is how the track works. Okay, but this onto the security side, BTP admin side, because that's the person that will be doing those all the activity, saying how because they are the one who will be the front face for the auditing and maybe how the end users are restricted from viewing the data that they are not supposed to, right? In your real organization as well, whenever it comes to role creation and everything, that will be activity of your SAP basis person, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Correct.
Sumit, right now, like Fury person is creating everything, right? So yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
like
So you
if
can create that. I mean, if you say you can create a role over here, and in this role you can assign. So for example, if I say I have a role, for example, quality inspector,
Mhm.
you can create it and you can map the application to it, and going forward, you can assign this role to that particular person, right? This is a role we are talking about, isn't it?
Okay.
These are the steps, but it also depends on like what is the launchpad that's there in your organization. So for example, the one which we let's just say used over here, for example, is SAP build work zone. Now in your organization, what is the launchpad kind of that you are using? Any idea?
No, for right now I'm not using BTP. Okay.
Okay, you are not
Uh,
using.
yeah.
Okay, okay. So maybe it will be your SAP Launchpad, the default one which has been provided, or maybe tomorrow you might also migrate to SAP Cloud Portal, because I have seen people migrating from that to Cloud Portal. That's also fine. But this
Yeah.
particular role, then you can assign, and this particular role will ideally be used going forward for any person who would like to use that. You know.
Okay. So Sumit, like yeah. So
Continue, Krishna. I will ask you.
yeah, Sumit, one more question. Okay. Suppose
Mhm,
that I have seen like suppose that we are creating application. Okay, and
mhm,
we have
mhm,
deployed, and
mhm,
in PFCG, like we have created and we have given role. Okay,
mhm,
and
mhm,
according to role, like data is coming, like some
mhm.
right. So
No.
in
Okay, one
uh,
sec. One sec. One sec. One sec. Look,
mhm,
when it says that there is a PFCG role that has been created, that PFCG
mhm,
role over here will be assigned to end user. Now that defines the kind of applications or the transaction with which the for which the user is authorized for. Now, when it comes to data, okay, now on the data layer, it would be the case of, let's just say, either on the ABAP layer, or some authorization object which would have been added, or let's just say onto the CDS layer in the access control view level, if something has been added, then at that point in time, those authorization objects are assigned, not the roles, right?
yeah, but
Right.
I think like in PFCG at user level, we can give like a condition like this user
Yeah,
can see
you
only
can you
uh,
you
this
you
this
can
data.
you
Mhm.
can you can but until and unless those particular condition that you are specifying on an authorization object, those authorization object are not consumed in a real technical object, which is your CDS views or any data sources which can it have, right?
Mhm.
So till the time it's not consumed, your data is not going to get filtered. Okay, so there is a story for your there is one more thing that we do have for that. Maybe not over here, but yeah, we have one more thing called ABAP on HANA, right? So I'll just give you, so the one which you're talking about is on that direction. So in ABAP on HANA, what we create is any data source. For example, you are saying you are creating a Fiori application. Now in your Fiori application, you are saying that I am creating a PFCG role, which will say that, okay, this particular person has an access for that particular group or catalog, and that's the reason he is able to see the application. Along with that, in this PFCG role, you are saying that what is the role of this particular person. I'll just say he is from a quality background, but he has got an access of 01, 02, and 03. It means he can create, update, and delete. Now, in your ABAP on HANA, the CDS data source that you will create, In this data source, you will create a access control view. Okay. Now in this access control view, you will specify the object. Okay, you will use the auth object. For example, I'll just say queue obj. That's the name of your authorization object that you are talking about, that you will consume also in a PFCG. That's one place where you will consume. But this queue obj is unknown, right? Till the time I have not assigned to anyone, no one will know that, okay, this particular object is also being used to secure your data, to filter your data, right? And that's the reason this particular one will be used in your access control view, saying that if queue obj has been assigned to a user, and if he is having an excess of, let's just say 0, 1, for example, hypothetically, then only he should be able to view the data. Now, in your case, you are saying 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. As he has got one of that particular access, he'll be able to do that. But let's just say here I am saying 0, 3 is the role which has been assigned, and you are saying if someone is having an authorization of either create, which is 0, 1, or change, which is 0, 2, then only the data should be visible. Even though the user has got this role, if it is 0, 3, they won't be able to view that. That's what you are saying about a data security. That's what you mean when you say data security, right? This is
Right.
how the
Mm,
full
mm,
architecture is defined. You are looking at from a Fiori perspective, but this is also how it is defined in backend. Because if
mm,
I just remove this particular chunk, your data security will be gone. It will be just
got
your object security. Okay. Yeah. Continue.
mm. And Sumit, we have one before BTP. Okay, we have
Mm-hmm.
only one central point. Okay, so
Okay.
we can deploy your application and we can create and user can see like
Mm-hmm.
what. Okay, like group and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
here after deployment, like we are creating. So how like we will provide for user? Like we will give this link or user has already like a account and
No, 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 no. So user has so that's where the role of BTP admin will come into picture. So currently you see just one user
okay,
right over here, which is myself. And in this
right,
particular
right.
user, I have got all the authorization. Rather, a user will be there who will have got a just a view only access, and that too for a specific block. So they cannot even go in HTML5 application, and they'll have a view application, a view role. So maybe if you just go over here, you have we have assigned certain roles of this. There is something called launchpad external user. If I just assign this and I don't assign launchpad admin, I cannot manipulate the application. Even I cannot change or uh, redirect via my HTML5 application. Okay, I'll need a launchpad user access in order for me to be an end user. And when you say I am defining a role for end user, you will only assign this. This two role won't be assigned to that particular user, so that their access is restricted. Got my point?
Okay. Mhm. So we need to add like user here also, right?
Exactly. So you
Right,
what you are supposed to do is, if you just go over here, you will see a create. Here you will add a
right. That's it. Yeah.
relevant user and what is a kind of authorization. The moment you create a user, next thing that you will do is, so for example, other than currently in my account, whatever application I have deployed, I won't anyone else won't be able to view that. But for example, I would like other user also to view that application. So I'll just simply say this is my username and this is my mail ID. Now in real organization, we also have of other Fiori other provided application as for HANA cloud service, using which you can map a username to a mail ID, so that your mail ID is not your username. So many a time your
Mhm.
organizational ID or something. That's the reason we have two blocks. Now, once I have assigned, this user will get an access for that. But what all access? If I just go over here, the role collection will be empty. Now I'll say, hey, I would like you to be just a user who can view my application, nothing more than that. So it means this particular user, if I pass him the link of that particular application, they'll be able to view it. But that's the only thing. More than that, they won't be able to do anything. If I would like him also to be a developer, I can assign him the developer's roles. Now, this particular role that you see over here, role collection, in your on-premise term, you can correlate it with your PFCG roles. Because in your PFCG role, what you ideally do, you ideally create a role over here, for example, destination administrator, and then you assign certain more things, individual roles to it. Now, this individual roles for you is nothing but your authorization object in the term of your on-premise. Getting my point?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, this is
And
how it works. Yeah,
okay,
please.
so this is all related to admin, right? Like
This is
basis,
all it.
right?
Yeah, all relevant to
Mm.
admin. Right. So once they assign you that role, then only you will be able to see that. And that's the reason in any organization, after introduction
Mhm.
of BTP, the role of SAP basis is to move to the role of a SAP BTP admin. Okay. And that's the reason you will see in your organization, the number of basis person will be limited, 1, 2, or 3, but in developers will be more. And those basis person will have a kind of a SAP all access kind of a thing. So that they are called admin in the term of a BTP. These are the terminology change and the way they are getting the access. That's the only thing.
And Sumit, the last question, like
Yeah, please, please.
we have created one table now. So in table, suppose that right now we have limited column. Suppose that, okay? But here, like UI, can you run UI?
Okay, in the UI. Okay.
At the UI level. So here, like purpose is started, like 4 to 5 column are coming. Okay. Suppose that we have lots of column. Okay. So we can manage, because suppose that after 6 now, like it will not
It will
visible.
start showing. It will start showing it onto the bottom. Call a responsive nature.
So
responsive
like
nature. That's
we
what you are
can
talking
give
about,
here
like this.
like so
So
like by default we can see like this because we need to click on that icon, right?
no, so it depends on your personalization. Nah? So when I defined a particular application, what so you are talking about this one by default.
Yeah.
Okay. So it depends on the priority, right? So it totally depends on your application's designing. So for example, if I just go over here in my service, what I have defined is that I would like to annotate a particular application over here, and I have specified this line item. I could have specified more as well. Plus, there is one more thing of the importance of the data, because when I have lots of data, each data may not be important for me, isn't it? But let's just say I have all the 6 column important for me. So what I'll do is I'll just specify one more thing over here called maybe there was, yeah, UI importance, right? This is the one. So in your UI importance, ideally you have high, low, or medium. The moment you specify, for example, high, what it means is that these are data that you would like to view by default. There can be certain data which you would like to be there, but you don't want it to be visible by default. So whenever application loads a list report, it will try to ensure that all the data, all the columns which has been specified with category high are visible by default. And for that, if it needs to expand this to show more, this is called show more, then it will expand. But let's just say the high category of your data is visible within the visible area of your application, because currently I'm using a laptop. There can be a 32-inch screen as well, or there can be an iPad as well, which I might be using. So depending on your screen size, whether actual set of information which you have marked as a high importance are visible, that's what my system, or I can say application, will try to achieve. Once it has achieved that, it will hide the rest of the column. And if for you to view that, you have to click on this show more. This is how the maybe you can view, or I view and read all this thing into the I can say experience.sap on and you can read through the SAP Fiori list report floor plan, right? So we have got different floor plan. These are list report floor plan, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Yeah, my doubt is all. I had a doubt regarding PF30. My issue is resolved. He explained.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Ashok. Okay. So other than this, anyone has any doubt on any of the things that we have learned, cover, understood, or like just say you guys have tried out so far, which I can help you with?
One more. This subscription, BTP Work Zone, is the paid or free subscription?
So with your BTP package account, there is a free subscription. So whenever I say I am going with a SAP BTP, there are different kind of offering, right? So for example, BTP free trial, which I ideally is not suggested for your productive usage. Then there is something called SAP BTP pay as you go. So whenever you are going with a pay as you go, all the free tier things which you are able to currently see in your free tier account, that's something you will get by default. So you can ultimately get all those information. I can say what was the term? Um, SAP BTP
Pricing?
service. No. Service offering. There is something called Explore dot something. If I remember, there was a nice term. Yeah, Discovery Center. That's what we ideally call it as. So in the SAP Discovery Center, you will see all those services which are ultimately provided by SAP, and you will get an idea of the offering. So for example, there can be certain offering which are free tier. There can be certain services which are paid, right? So those all the things you will ultimately find over here. You see over here. So for example, if I say ABAP environment, that's a free tier, so that will be available out of the box. But for example, this is the one. So same way, you can search for any of the service. So as for what I remember,
Okay.
build is something that was coming as a part of your search for build. Yeah, build process automation, build work zone. Yeah, there is the one which is also part of your free tier, right? So there is the one which
Okay.
won't be. So for example, if you would like to go with advanced edition, you will ultimately go over here, and these ultimately will give you also an estimation. For example, the way you are using it, the kind of, let's just say, number of application you are publishing, the different services it offers, what is a uh, what are the amounts that you might end up paying, right? So these are the pricing, right? So whether you would like to go with CPA, pay as you go, so these are the things that you will ultimately find. So these are enterprise agreement. So many a time these are fixed price consumption saying, okay, these are the things that you will go, or pay as you go. It's as good as like if I'm using this one, this is how much I have to pay, right?
Okay.
Depending
Okay.
on your active users and everything. So Discovery Center is a one sole truth, not only for us, but even let's just say for a salesperson as well, right? So many a time what happens is they are selling the BTP service to someone, and now they are saying that, okay, how much I would be, I have to pay. Definitely on behalf of SAP, they have to answer. So the SAP Discovery Center is the one that they always refer, because in case there are changes, update in the pricing, SAP Discovery Center is the one that where they can look for it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then I think that's all we had. Am I missing on anything? Okay, one sec. There was one thing maybe which I remember I started. I guess the one which we, one sec. Okay, I'll just go over here. There were a few services we deployed. Where are those? Yeah, here. Yeah. So Azure Service and Azure DB and SRV. Okay. Okay, we I think pushed our changes of Azure into BTP into Git. Okay, let's just look for the GitHub account. Where is my Azure? Over here. Okay, now we have not added any authorization over here. That's okay. I'll just go over here and maybe I'll just try to. Yeah, that's also good. I'll just go over here. There's my Azure SRV. And as per what I remember, we have added a basic authentication to it, isn't it? This one, go back. Yeah, we have got some basic authentication over here. I'll anyway go over here and I'll just simply say this one trial. I'll just start this service again because my DB is running, so this should anyway be also running. At the same point in time, there was also one thing, maybe I guess we can just quickly try to go through that as well. Okay, I'll just go over here, dev, and okay. So now I'll just simply go over here. Was it admin? Admin. Yeah, we have got this. And now what was that particular thing? I'll just say Database Explorer would have got something for Azure. No, we have not added it yet. Let me just go back and this Azure DB, here it is. Service binding. Okay, let's just view this information, copy this, go over here. Anyway, I guess we can also view that via the service, isn't it? I'll just get the attachment list over here. Okay, so we have got the attachment list. Now, what I'm just trying to look for is Azure. Yeah, here it is, right? So we have uploaded something. I guess there was some issue in the download we were mentioning, and maybe I told maybe after deployment it was working. Let's see, I guess how, because I think I have cleared out many of those particular data, because Azure Storage Explorer is also something I have subscribed as a pay-as-you-go model only. So the amount of size which I occupy, definitely, I guess that's a subscription payment, I guess that it will generate. But I'll simply see if there is something which is available. Mostly there should be. I have kept one as per what I remember. This is the one which we just used. In the blob container, what was it? Does it have some data? No. Does it have? Yeah, it has some. Does it have some? No, it does not have. Okay, so this one. It's called E4. Okay, there's the one. E4C41. E4C41. E4C4. Okay, one. There's the one. So there is my Azure container ID, right? And there is my Azure file ID. And what is the ID of it? There is a GUID of it, right? There is a GUID of it. So I'll just copy this. And if I just clone this, duplicate. What was the name of other entity? It was called Azure's int. Okay, and here I'll add my GUID that we are talking about, which is nothing but this one, attachment list. Oh, not this one. There's the one, there's the ID. Okay, and here I'll just simply say /$value. Now you see it just got downloaded, right? So there was this comma which I just missed. But if I just open this, you will see the file that I uploaded, or I can say the file that's there over here, right? That's something which got downloaded. We have not done any sort of technical change, but it seems maybe in the local environment, the Node.js version, which would be there, maybe was conflicting a bit. So in the preview mode, I was not able to download. But the moment I, let's just say, tried updating that, I mean, the moment I tried deploying, that ultimately started working. And I guess there were no technical changes other than the let's just say code that we did. Okay, so that was the only thing which I just would like you to confirm. So you can try out the same thing. You could try out deploying it, and that thing should anyway work for you. Other than that, one more thing, which was something which I just thought maybe would be good to share with you guys as well. Yeah, BTP BE auth. Okay, so I'll just simply start this to service now. I'll just simply start this one. Okay, let me just go over here. This is running. I'll just go over here. I'll start this as well. So I think this BTP auth is a app router for us. Dash SRV is a Node.js service for us, right? Just go back. Yeah, these two services are running. Anyway, my HANA Database Explorer is also up and running. I'll just click on this auth. Okay, and it just navigated me over here, and I can simply click on this metadata and I can see that. But now the question is, okay, this is something which I had for, let's just say, my look browser, right? And I'm using that works. Now let's just go over here and just say Postman, right? That's one thing we are talking about. Okay, now let's just say I would like to load the same metadata over here. Go back, copy this, send. You see what it says? 200, okay, but it says redirect component and all. I don't see let's just say service getting loaded, isn't it, over here? So for example, if I would like to do that, what I'll do is I'll just simply go and inspect. So ultimately it needs some authentication token. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just simply go over here, remove this, refresh. It would have triggered some backend call. And here you would see this cookie. Okay, I'll just copy this cookie information from here in the header. And here you have to mention that. So what did this happen? Invalid
There's no
correct.
backspace after when you copy
Okay,
it.
okay, yeah, okay, there was a enter. Yeah,
Yes,
thanks.
yes.
Good observation. So send. Now you see a metadata and everything is getting loaded. Now you can perform all those operations which you were doing. So for example, if I would like to get some normal entity data or anything, right? Whatever we used to do, the same thing can also be done in a Postman. One catch is over here is that you ultimately have to explore one more thing onto authorization a bit, because there is one thing maybe which you would have observed. I mean, I can just simply say, okay, it worked, but I can simply, it would be good if I just share this thing also with you is that whenever you are going with any such project, right? I'll just go over here. If I have that project already pushed into the repo, BTP auth over here, right? So you see in the BTP auth, while doing this and go in APP in the Access app, we specified CSRF protection true. What does it mean? It means that if I'm saying a create operation, right? I'm sending a create operation. Anyone cannot create, perform a create. Anyone would be using it like I am doing. Like I would have read some sort of a cookie and I'm misusing it. Possible, right? So the idea is CSRF protection does not allow you to do this till the time a valid authentication token has also not been passed, and that's the reason many a time for the local, for the tasting purpose, you might would like to switch this off for time being, and then whenever it's being used in any real application, be it like just as some sort of endpoint API or Fury application, this token is automatically generated and being passed. But let's just say at this point in time, I am able to perform a get call, right? Now let's just say I would like to perform some sort of a post call. It will fail because my application is protected. Other than the cookie, it expects few more things. I'll just say post over here, and here I'll just say I would pass some sort of let's just say uh, yeah, raw data in the form of a JSON. Okay, and here I'll just simply say name. I'll just say D2. Okay, and I'll just simply say send. It's a forbidden. Reason is I am saying it's a quite secure call. I don't allow anyone who does not have a right CSRF protection, and this does not come with cookie. Okay, so whenever you would like to do some round of testing for you, what you can do is you can simply have a CSRF protection deactivated version of it deployed, let's just say for time being onto your dev environment, and then you can perform this operation. This is for the safety purpose on your productive environment. So on your productive environment, it makes sense if you pass, do operation on your Postman, get some data and view all those things from a data perspective. But it really does not make sense if you, let's just say, try, um, let's just say, altering those data at any point in time. Okay, and that's the reason this CSRF protection is restricting you. So if you make it false, you will again see that your create, update, and delete will also start working from here. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I guess now I feel I have mostly covered everything. Okay, still, I mean, today was our last session, but still, if you guys feel maybe you are stuck somewhere or anything, we have a group open. You can just ping over there, or maybe I guess from that group, you can have my number. You can just ping me in. I'll try to respond as soon as I can. I mean, I did not respond to Sridhar because I guess that was a point maybe which I felt maybe as we are meeting, it would be good if you can just discuss it one to one rather than just reverting onto the chat. But definitely, I'll revert as soon as I can. Okay.
So Simon, actually last time I think so we discussed about like some problem statement
Yeah, so that's
regarding
something. Yeah, that's something I'll be sharing with you, a document by mid of the next week. So ultimately, I
Yes.
can just give you a statement, but rather than that, I'll just would like to give you some context. So I'll just share it with you guys. You know? So you'll get the recording and the message onto the group, but post which I'll share one more document with you. That's something you can consider it as a problem statement, and you can work on that. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
So any idea like what kind of applications right now getting built using this right now is CAPM? I mean, I'm talking about in non-SAP scenario, uh, like
So,
the traditional tables basically. Yeah.
so any application which needs an openness. So for example, I have developed, let's just say many application, maybe I guess this is anyway not technical. I'll just simply keep it